Hello everyone. So today let us talk about failed Jira consultations. I started this video series on failed Jira consultations because I wanted to share my experience and help other Jira admins, Jira consultants, and not only Jira admins and Jira consultants, but also companies. Because if you are trying to roll out Jira in your company, then you definitely need to be aware of these situations or possibilities where your Jira rollout, your plans of doing great things with Jira can go waste, right? Now, the topic that I want to talk about is doing too much in too short time, right? So, this is something that I encounter on a regular basis. It is not just relevant for the whole Jira, or I should say the whole Jira instance used by the company entirely. It could be relevant for a small team or a small change or a small configuration automation. So basically, whenever you are given a task or a project to work on, then you have to make sure that you understand the requirements, but at the same time, you also need to ask the stakeholders, your potential clients, your existing clients, how much time, money, budget they have for this implementation, this project, this task. And again, whether you're doing a small implementation or a big implementation or a major rollout, maybe you're doing a migration, maybe you're doing some integration of Jira with any other tool. In almost all the cases, you're basically doing something technical, and at the same time, whenever you're doing something technical based on some requirements, you need to have a plan where you will decide what all needs to be done in terms of implementation. Maybe based on a requirement, you have identified a plan that will probably go for the next 3 months or maybe 6 months. Whenever we talk about doing something with Jira, it is never really like multi-year project. It is usually like few months project. I mean, it could be a multi-year project if you're doing like a migration of Jira, let us say, to cloud, and you want to do it not really immediately. Maybe you want to do it in phases for multiple teams, and you want to go to cloud. But in almost all other cases, it is like we are only talking about months, not really years of implementation. So whenever you make a plan, you of course need to break down your activities into different tasks, and whenever you break down your activities or your bigger activities into smaller activities, you then of course need to identify who will be doing what. You need to identify the dependencies, you need to identify stakeholders, you need to basically understand from your client that, okay, for doing these activities, would you be able to provide these things to me? For example, if you need access to some tools, so would it be possible to get access by this date? Would you be able to get clarity on or some kind of a sign off on this requirement or this implementation or whatever you're doing? So basically, whenever we talk about any implementation which is like a bit more than few days, you need some planning and you need some coordination with the multiple teams, and that is where things can go wrong. I see plans where you are not really given enough time, or maybe or I think I should probably put it differently. Whenever we talk about an implementation, it is of course the time, which is something that you need to consider, but at the same time, expectations need to be set clearly and defined and agreed upon from the very beginning. You cannot really say that this can be done by this date if you get this. There are a lot of other factors, and you also need to keep in mind the buffer. Like whenever you're doing an implementation, always try to keep some buffer in your plan, and that is why I think it is very important that you need a good project manager Usually engineers or Jira admins, they don't always have that management or PM kind of a background. They are engineers and they just want to do things, but they may not be able to get things or plan other people availability, or they're not really the best people to get work done. I mean, not always, but that is how things are. If you are an engineer, then you are an engineer. If you are a project manager, then you are a project manager. It is very difficult to find a mix of both. And I'm not really a good project manager, although I work with a lot of project managers, and I think a majority of project managers are not really project managers. They are just, passing the information from one place to another place. Back, like when I was, I have been working in the industry for almost 25 years now. I think 25 years. When I started my career, I used to work with managers who were really engineers. Then they become leads. Then they became project managers. Like it was almost like back then, like maybe 15-20 years ago, it was almost in every other case, PMs were basically engineers, and they had all the necessary information, background, because that is how things are, or things were, not are. So nowadays, anyone can be a project manager, which is, I'm not really against it, but I think non-technical project managers are difficult to work with, because they are not always sure how things will get done. So what I'm saying is that if you're working as a Jira consultant on a project, on a decent sized project, if not a big project, then you need to be very, very, very careful when it comes to basically these plans, project managers, different stakeholders. Because if you have to write let me give you a very simple example. Let us say you have to write a Groovy script. Let us talk about Jira Data Center. Let us say you have to write a Groovy script where you are working with another team. Let us say a different team. Let me give you a very good example. Let us say you're working with a team who is doing something with Salesforce, right? Now you're responsible for calling some endpoints, right? Let us say some middleware endpoints or some endpoints of Salesforce to update something or to retrieve something. Then of course you know what needs to be done from your side, right? So you can say very clearly and confidently that yes, I can write these scripts to do these 5 or 6 things on different events in Jira. But the thing is, because you're working with a different team, you may not get access to the dev environment on time. You may not get access to those cases or projects, I don't know what it is called in Salesforce, on time. You may not get all the clarity on what fields needs to be updated. So the way I approach this is, whenever I'm making a plan, I always have in my plan some kind of a POC. And even before POC, I think let us start with the POC. So I always have in my plan like a POC, so that you reach a point in your project life cycle where you can say very clearly and confidently that yes, we have done this POC where based on few fields, few projects, whatever, we are able to achieve this automation, right? And this will validate that yes, it can be done. And then based on the POC, you can say in your plan that yes, we will proceed further with further things. But having a POC as a separate phase altogether will help you and will protect you as a technical person. So what I'm saying is, if you're working on a project where you are working with tighter deadlines, right? You don't have a lot of time. Maybe you don't have a lot of resources. Having a lot of resources is not really always helpful, because again, I think I've talked about this in like a lot of my other videos. Whenever you're doing something with Jira, it is not really like it is never really a huge team. It is always like a small team who is doing something, like especially if you're dealing with Jira admins. So what I'm saying is that if you are responsible for doing something with Jira, within Jira, and you are a Jira admin and you are part of that big implementation, then at least from your side, be very clear about how you want to approach and what phases should be there. Have a phase for POC, so that you are protected and you can validate, and it will of course help you, but it will also help others. And it has happened with me multiple times where I'm part of a big implementation where Jira was a very crucial part. The Jira implementation or whatever we were doing with Jira was important, but because of lack of time, because of maybe unavailability of stakeholders or responsible or crucial people, we were not able to meet the deadlines. And of course, whenever we talk about IT, if you're not able to meet deadlines, few things can happen. Either you will, if you don't do something on time, then it might not look good on your report, on your KPI. If you're working for a company, then it can be 1 point against you, right? Or maybe multiple points, because your manager, when the time comes for appraisal, they will not hesitate to tell you that, Ravi, because you didn't implement this on time, we are not really going to increase your salary. And it happens all the time. So always be transparent. Don't hesitate in speaking up. Be communicate as much as you can. If you think you are part of a project where you see risk, don't wait for things to go wrong. At least from your side, be very straightforward and open about, and raise flags that I'm blocked because I'm not able to do this. And of course, don't overdo it. You have to find a balance. If you are the only one in the project who's always complaining, then it can also be a problem. So you have to, I think we all know, whenever you're working in big companies or a team, there is always politics. People will always have their own self-interest. So you have to find a balance, and it will take some time. It will take, when I say some time, it will take multiple years. So yeah, that is all I wanted to talk about, like failed Jira implementation because of lack of time. And I think I'm talking about time here is because time is one of the most important thing whenever we talk about any implementation. It is one of the most important thing that decides whether your project will be a success or a failure, whether you will be able to do it or not. So yeah, that is it. That is all I wanted to talk about, and I hope I have given you some ideas in this video and you enjoyed watching this video. Thank you very much. Bye bye.